Welcome back to the Crash the Pond podcast. It's a Monday, January 16th edition of the show. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Hope if you had the day off, hope you had a great day. And if you didn't, well, hope you had a great day anyway.
Wow. Happy you stayed there.
I'm trying to, include everyone here.
There you go.
So we've got much to discuss because the Ducks just played, I think, what was one of the more exciting games of the season. We got some highlights in this game to go over. We've got the last week of Ducks news and games to talk about, although I feel like we probably won't spend too much time on that because A, the Ducks only played 2 games, and B, games are pretty forgettable.
Yeah, I mean, we can briefly mention what those games were and what the scores were, but yeah, it was definitely a forgettable week. It was one where you and I were texting today, and we had kind of established that we might go into a different topic that we still are probably going to go into at some point. But with the thought that if today's game kind of went that same route, that we would definitely need more to talk about than these last couple games, because the game against the Devils was really, really rough. The game against the Oilers also really, really rough. Especially after the way they played against the Bruins last Sunday, which we would have covered already. But they lost to the Oilers on Wednesday 6-2, and they lost to the Devils on Friday 6-2 also. And these were just really poor showings from the Ducks overall. And it looks like I've lost Felix for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, but I will just keep on going. Sorry that you have to stay on my face and my face alone. But these games were rough games. The Ducks lost to the Oilers. Connor McDavid kind of put on a show. It looks like we've got Felix back.
No clue what just happened, but...
Well, fun times.
That was brief.
Yeah. But the Ducks lost to the Oilers. McDavid put on a show. The Ducks kind of really got caved in that game. And same thing against the Devils. The one thing I will say is these are 2 of the most high-powered offenses in the league. And so maybe that's something to take away from it. But I don't think the Ducks really did themselves any favors in these games. And it really kind of exposed the flaws. And really was not a great look with kind of how the line combinations had been put together. And the fact that they were allowing this many chances, this many goals after those changes. I mean, the 7-1 game against Boston, 6-2 Oilers, 6-2 Devils. And so it was fascinating to see what Dallas Eakins was going to do after ending the homestand like that. Because I can't remember a stretch where the Ducks would have allowed that many goals in 3 straight games. I don't know if you can.
No, and so that takes us into tonight's game, and to the point you're making here about the changes, we got our answer, and I think it's so strange with Dallas Eakins because you will get these occasional glimpses of, oh, I agree with that change, or oh, that's the correct assessment of the roster, and it almost makes you wonder, like, who was behind this change? Was it the GM? Was it, whose idea was this? Because he's so resistant to making these changes, at least that we see fit. And so tonight, going into this game, you have Trevor Zegras back at center on the second line with Ryan Strome at the wing. And to me, the biggest takeaway from that change isn't so much Zegras going back to his natural position. It's Ryan Strome going to the wing. Yeah. Because Ryan Strome has been basically anchored at center all season long and has had, I think, maybe one stint on the wing that lasted one period.
Yeah, it was like a couple of shifts with Mason
when McTavish was at center on that line. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was also primarily stapled with Vetrano.
Exactly. And so you have Strome on the wing and you have Strome split up from Frank Vetrano, and they've been joined at the hip all season. So that right there is the biggest change, because outside of that, I mean, this lineup isn't really anything too noteworthy. You still have that top line of Henrique, McTavish, and Terry. And so this was going to be an interesting matchup because the Penguins are a good team, as always, and the Ducks are not a good team.
Nope.
And so this was going to be an interesting test. That the Penguins aren't like an elite team this year. They're closer to middle of the pack when it comes to those 5-on-5 metrics we look at. But like I've been trying to make the point of on this show and elsewhere the last couple weeks, everyone is better than the Ducks at this point in time.
Yeah.
So anyone is going to be a challenge. And especially, I mean, a team like the Penguins is certainly going to be that. And I thought that the Ducks acquitted themselves quite nicely in this game, despite it eventually being a loss.
Yeah, and it's going to be a weird game because I think you're going to look back on the overall numbers, right? And you're going to see from an expected goal totals at 5-on-5 adjusted, per Evolving Hockey, Pittsburgh had 4.04 expected goals for. The Ducks only had 2.22. And so you're going to see that and think that this was actually a pretty bad game. The Ducks allowed a bunch of chances against, things like that. And while that's not completely untrue, I think if you're trying to at least assess a better 60-minute effort, this, I think, would be one of those, because you look at kind of the game flow chart, and it's a fascinating one from a 5-on-5 perspective that the Penguins really just had. They were consistently applying chances, but it wasn't much different than what the Ducks were doing for most of the game. But they just had these couple of flurries that really generate chances. One of them resulted in the second goal for the Penguins in this game, where it was a flurry of chances coming for the Penguins with Evgeny Malkin eventually finding the puck in the net front and burying it. And then there was another flurry in the third period that both these resulted in about 1 expected goals for, something around there. And so, sure, you could say, well, the Ducks need to limit those, and that's true. But I think if you're looking from an overall effort perspective, 60-minute effort where they're playing a lot better, I think that you'll take those couple of stretches where maybe it's a minute of extended zone time, extended chances against, where it might be a mental slip up here and there. But the Ducks aren't necessarily, we're not looking for them to win the game. We're looking for the process to improve. And I think from that perspective, you can say outside of those 2 stints, there was a much improved process. Now, the Ducks did flatline a little bit offensively in the late second period, early third period, and throughout the third period. And so that's one thing they'll need to work on. But I think from the overall team defense perspective, I think this was a better game and better effort from the Ducks overall. And it also created a very entertaining game, which I think is also something you and I look for, in that if the Ducks are going to be bad, at least somewhat make it entertaining, make it back and forth, have offense going both ways, not be this completely one-sided effort that we saw over the last couple of games, where it was just almost laughable how easily the Ducks were being penetrated into the offensive zone. You look at the first period against the Devils, where it really felt like that. And so this didn't feel like the Penguins were constantly coming in waves. This felt like a little bit of a back and forth affair with the Penguins getting some better chances. I think that that's a really good sign for this Ducks team overall. Even if this may not result in better results long term, this at least leads to a better process.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that the Penguins are pretty clearly the better team in this game.
Yeah.
They were just controlling the game more. They were establishing a cycle in the Ducks zone, especially in the first period. I thought that the disparity was there, but kind of to what you're saying here, the Ducks just had pockets where they at least were showing some fight, where they were showing some positives that at the end of the day maybe aren't fully reflected in these shot differentials, but at least you know that there were moments where this team looked like it was competing. And that's really, I think, at this point in the season, all that you can really ask for.
Yeah, and I think the standout performance for me tonight, honestly, was the Zegras, Strome, Comtois line. And, yes. I mean, shocker, that kind of, not tooting our own horn too much, but these things that we've been talking about, right? That you and I have been harping on a bit. That there's other people on the internet. This isn't just us either. Other people on Twitter that you'll find that have said, like, Ryan Strome should be on wing. Mm-hmm. Like, we actually saw it when Mason McTavish was at center and Ryan Strome was on the wing, that Ryan Strome was way more effective, both in the defensive zone and offensive zone, coming at it from that position. And Max Comtois, we've seen Max Comtois with Trevor Zegras have success.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, whether it's personal issues, who knows what it is, don't want to really speculate on anything like that. But Comtois just has been in Eakins' doghouse for most of, honestly, Eakins' tenure, outside of maybe the shortened season.
The 16-goal season.
Yeah, and so it's nice to see him get a chance here, because you look at some of the numbers when he was with Zegras and Terry, and they were fantastic together as a line. And for whatever reason, Dallas Eakins went away from it. And when Comtois is with guys that can't really generate offense for him, he really struggles a bit. And what we saw on this, and I think we're just kind of bouncing around this game a little bit, but the third goal from the Ducks in this game to take the 3-2 lead in the third period, I think was a prime example of this line working as a whole. And it's funny because some people will say, well, Zegras, like, what's the number one knock with Zegras as a center? It's going to be, people say, defensive zone coverage, right? That
yep.
He's weak defensively, yada, yada, yada. But you look at that goal and look at where it starts. It starts in the defensive zone. It starts with Zegras in a board battle with Evgeny Malkin, of all people, wins the puck and chips it up the board to Ryan Strome, who's quickly on the board and able to get the puck. And so it's not just a chip up the board to chip up the board. It's Zegras moving it to Strome, who then also puts it, I think, off the board to find Max Comtois, who's able to rush into the offensive zone with the puck on his stick. And that's kind of what Comtois does, right? He really kind of puts his head down, moves the puck, and he's able to get the puck low, and he kind of loses his balance, but Strome comes in and supports him. And there's a couple other things that happen in the offensive zone, but Zegras ends up with stripping the puck high in the zone, moves it down low to Strome, ends up coming in. Strome finds him for the quick shot that ends up beating Casey DeSmith. And kind of that's a long ramble, but it's to all bring it back to that all starts in the defensive zone. And nobody's going to really focus on that with that goal. People are going to focus on, maybe they'll focus on Zegras stripping the puck at the blue line and keeping it in the zone, which is also a very good play. They'll maybe focus on Strome and really the patience to hold on the puck when he was one-on-one with DeSmith, instead of jamming it into the net when there's really no angle there. He tries to find Zegras. But I think the really fascinating thing is no one's really going to fully look back at that defensive zone play that leads to that breakout, leads to the transition. And that is the number one knock against a Trevor Zegras, and what people don't necessarily look for. And even though he physically is not going to be as strong as an Evgeny Malkin, he's smart enough to be able to make use of his stick and strip the puck. And while, yes, singular plays, there are more plays than that happen throughout the course of the game, but I think it's emblematic of what Trevor Zegras does at center that makes him so effective and why that is the position he should be playing.
Well, what was interesting is that throughout the game, you saw Zegras get multiple chances almost identical to that goal. He had chances throughout this game that Ryan Strome was setting him up on. And I think for Ryan Strome, it just seems to be, I mean, this is purely a small sample, but yeah, he was just having
We're reading way too much into a small sample. We need to see more of this, but this is the information we have in front of us for that line.
Yeah, well, just based off what we saw, Strome just looked comfortable creating plays from the flank, creating plays down low, below the goal line, and on the wing. And Zegras was having a really kind of easy time, or at least he was showing a really good ability to time when he was jumping into the slot, because it wasn't like he was just sitting there. He was kind of hanging around in the quiet areas and then dashing in right at the right moment. So Strome looked good on the wing. He was like that play. He could have justifiably taken a shot or tried to jam it home, but he stayed patient, stayed aware, and looked for the better play. And Trevor Zegras coming down the slot wide open there is the better play. So
yep.
Yeah, and so just overall, I mean, Trevor Zegras has a goal on the night, has an assist as well, a really nice assist. On the Henrique goal, or sorry, on the Klingberg goal. And so on that play too, you saw it where he's able to control the play coming down the middle. He dishes it off to Klingberg, who snipes it home. So to me, really the highlight of this game is that Trevor Zegras was just so good. I mean,
you want my wired take, by the way?
Let's hear it.
So that goal was a power play goal, right?
The Klingberg goal.
So that all happens from the defensive zone with rushing it up the ice, and Trevor Zegras makes a move in the neutral zone with the guy kind of pinching up and works around a guy. Should the Ducks be losing faceoffs on the power play on purpose to enter the zone in transition and be able to generate chances? Well, yes, that was a little bit of a blown play, things like that. You're not necessarily going to get that on every zone entry, but I think having a zone entry with the clear intent of being to set up the offensive zone on a power play, I don't think is doing this Ducks team many favors. Like, this is a team that should be entering the zone with speed when they can and try to generate offense off that rush.
One caveat I would add is that this goal came right as the 4-on-4 ended.
That's true. That's a fair point.
So it's kind of like a power play goal in name only, because the play started while the game was at 4-on-4.
Yeah. It was more so a joke with the wired take, but it's still something to think about.
Your point is well taken, though, that I think that this team is much more dangerous off the rush. Although I think that their top power play unit looks good. I mean,
they have. They definitely have.
Mason McTavish almost won this game in the dying second. I mean, the dying second of the third period with a one-time blast that Casey DeSmith just snagged. So
second period,
sorry.
Yeah, you're all good.
But I mean that would have been the difference. So
you're right.
Their power play has been. I'm not too worried about it, but I do think that's a good point, that they are dangerous off the rush. And it kind of just shows how John Klingberg, for as much as he struggled this season, like that's still his bread and butter. He's still a defenseman who can make a difference off the rush, who can join in, and the Ducks just haven't leveraged that at all.
Yeah, it just hit me. That would have been, and it obviously probably was due to the fact that it was right off the 4-on-4 ending, but that was probably John Klingberg's first look with Zegras on the power play in forever, it feels like.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if that's something you go back to. Like, Klingberg there's always going to be talk about his defensive game. I think that's just what it is. I think everyone just has to accept that his defensive game structure, defensive, everything with that's just never going to be where they want.
We know what he does well, and we know what he doesn't do well.
And at this point in time, I think as a Ducks fan, what you should all be looking for is Klingberg to put up points to raise his trade value. Because at this point in time, that's one of the most important things for John Klingberg to do. And I think that having him on that first power play unit, as he's starting to, his game offensively has improved. He's been generating more chances, and it feels like almost every single game he's finding himself in positions to create offense for either himself or his line teammates in any situation. And obviously, like I said, it comes with some giving and taking where he's going to give up chances going the other way. But I'd really like to see him, now that he feels like he's settled into this team a little bit more so far, to get some more looks on that first power play, just to at least get some more looks at getting some power play points to be able to build that trade value. I think at this point in time, having Fowler on that unit was a good decision when they made it, because Klingberg, I think, hadn't really settled into things on the team yet, and it feels like he's starting to really find his game again. And now I think is the time to make that transition.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, for as good as that top unit has been, who cares if Fowler comes off the top unit? It just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at this point.
What matters more is getting value for Klingberg, and Klingberg might even make the top unit even better because he's just more of a threat from the blue line than Fowler is.
Well, the entire first unit has completely changed since he was last on that unit. Like,
yes.
The last time he was on that unit, Zegras was on his off wing, and they were basically working for his one-timer.
McTavish was not there.
No. I don't think McTavish was on the power play at all, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, and so I think that it's time
I think Strome was on that unit, right? Whatever.
I don't know. Early season decisions by Eakins are usually...
Yeah.
They usually don't age well, let's put it that way.
Yep.
Remember Isaac Lindstrom on Getzlaff's wing a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
But do you remember the reasoning, though? That's what still gets me to this day.
Yep. Oh, no, I don't. Sorry.
The reasoning was
saying McTavish with the Zegras unit game 1, so maybe I'm misremembering there. So fair point.
Well, they didn't have it in the setup they have it now, regardless of... I think McTavish was actually a bumper.
Or maybe net front, but yeah.
Anyway, the rationale was just, well, we haven't been able to measure ourselves against other teams because there's been no preseason. So...
that's right, because that was the
that was the COVID season.
That was the COVID season, and that was the big gripe from Murray, was that the Ducks didn't get any preseason games, and the teams that didn't make the bubble should have gotten preseason games, all that different type of stuff.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh, fun times.
But by the way, this is completely off topic. But
let's do it. It's fine.
Did you see the Jim Rutherford quote about?
I listened to the entire press conference.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're the expert here. Well, I just saw the quote about, we're not in a rebuild, we're in a retool, and we're going to prioritize targeting young players over draft picks. Man, I was just getting like PTSD hearing that from those Bob Murray pressers. Remember the 23 to 25 age range quotes from Murray?
Yep. And no, legitimately, I listened to the thing. Jim Rutherford said he's not looking for draft picks. He's looking for more so hockey trades.
Oh,
Ring
man.
a bell?
That is the actual
the hockey trade. Hockey trade is like a PTSD word for me at this point in time.
That's the actual like death knell. If your GM says that, like, you just know you're going to be a rudderless ship for a couple more years.
Yeah, it's going to be a while, and rough for them, especially.
That's so good.
By the way, now I'm just taking it even further on a tangent, but it's connected to what you said.
Okay.
All rumors are really pointing towards Bruce Boudreau being on the outs in Vancouver.
Being let go, yeah.
Yeah. Would you have him come back to Anaheim right now? Would you let Dallas Eakins go to end the season and have Bruce Boudreau come in? And I think the only thing that I have reservations about is that means that you have Bruce Boudreau. You wouldn't bring him in without having him locked in for next year.
Yeah, it's hard to see the point of that right now.
Yeah.
Like, this team is going to be bad. And honestly, like if Boudreaux, let's say, makes them better, like are we sure that that's a good thing in the short term? Because right now the Ducks should just try to lose as many games as possible.
You want more games like this one, and maybe not exactly getting a point, but having progress. And so if you can have Boudreaux providing them with some progress while still losing, I think that's the ideal situation.
Like I don't think Boudreaux comes in and just turns everything around, but at the same time, look, I don't want to mess with success. And by success, I mean getting Connor Bedard. So I'm saying veto to bring in an objectively great.
Let me
coach.
ask you this: then come the offseason, if Bruce is not hired by other teams, Bruce Boudreaux or Andrew Brunette?
That is a tough one because I love Bruce Boudreaux. He's one of my favorite just people in the sport. But I'm intrigued by Andrew Brunette. I'm intrigued, and I think what's grown my optimism or my belief in Andrew Brunette is the way the Panthers are looking this season. Mm-hmm. And so, but I wouldn't have a problem with either coach though.
Yeah, I think I would prefer Brunette just simply with the way that he had the Panthers playing last year and how offensively they were going. The one thing I will say about Bruce, both good and bad, is I think from the good perspective is he lets his players play. And I think that is one thing that would be a breath of fresh air. Especially to end the season, is just essentially we don't know what Dallas Eakins has been like. Not necessarily saying he's not a player's coach.
Well, that's supposedly his entire shtick is that he's a player's coach.
He's a player's coach to an extent, though. He has his systems that are somewhat rigid, it seems like. Mm-hmm. And I think Bruce just essentially will sometimes let guys go out and play.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that bringing back Bruce would be really beneficial, not only for this team this season, but in the future, because it's essentially in a season like this, right, when it's a really rough season, you're losing a bunch of these games, having a coach that comes in and basically says, go out there and have fun and not worry about the results, that can do wonders for you down the season and still essentially a lot of habits that you're really going to see the payoff for next year. And so I think that is the benefit if you were to bring him in this year. Having said that, Bruce hasn't necessarily had a system that was conducive to an up-tempo transition style game. He's been has had highly offensive teams, everything like that, but he's never had a team that was a transition-based team. And I think that is where the Ducks should be going, and that is what Andrew Brunette is essentially known for with what he did in Florida.
Bruce Boudreaux's been around so long that we maybe forget, but those early Capitals years, that was a transition team. But that was also so long ago now.
And it was a very different game.
And I think back then, that was a bigger edge than it is now.
That's
whereas teams are just more skilled. Here's the thing that I thought about with Brunette, and I think one of the biggest components of Brunette's success in Florida was that he really got the D involved in the offense. He was so good at kind of making it an outnumbered attack. And listening to the PDO cast today, I was thinking about it. The Ducks have all these offensive defensemen that are going to come into the NHL in the next 2 to 3 years, heck, even the next year. And I think a guy like Andrew Brunette seems like the perfect fit to maximize a Pavel Mintyukov or an Olin Zellweger or even a Jamie Drysdale. So from a big picture perspective, I really like the idea of Brunette, but I'm never going to say no to Bruce Boudreaux.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I think I would probably lean towards Andrew Brunette out of the two, but I would. I think Bruce.
Just give me the Bruce vibes. There's never been bad Bruce vibes except in the playoffs.
Bruce to end the season actually would be really enjoyable. I don't know if I would necessarily want Bruce for the beginning for essentially next year also.
The thing is, I want him to go to a situation where he's not just gonna kind of be there for a year and a half or whatever, and then get kicked.
Yeah,
to the curb.
and I think that's the thing. And so I don't know if I would want the Ducks, and kind of wrapping it back to my original question, I don't think I would want the Ducks doing that because bringing in Bruce right now, because I'd rather see Verbeek take his time, interview a bunch of different guys, not essentially jump on the first guy that comes onto the market, essentially do his due diligence, find the right guy, not the first guy.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the entire thing, and that's why I'm good with Eakins staying the entire season.
I've hit that point.
And I mean, I've hit that point a while ago because you don't want to. Now the next coach really matters for this team, It's Pat Verbeek's first hire, and it's the first hire that hasn't been made by Bob Murray in, over a decade. So you really want to get this one right, and you want it to be the guy who will be around, who will help build the next kind of wave of this team. So anyway, we got really off track there, but that's fine.
Yeah.
The Ducks lost. The only other thing I really want to talk about from this game is, what did you think of the overtime where Trevor Zegras comes in on we'll call it a breakaway, although maybe it was more a partial breakaway, and he sees Cam Fowler trailing, who's about to be wide open, and he last second dishes it off to Fowler, and if Fowler gets a stick on that, that's a goal. But instead, Fowler doesn't even have his stick down, and the puck goes back the other way, and of course, the Penguins score, and that ends the game. What did you think of that play?
This may be a bit of a controversial opinion because everyone's going to just be like, you should shoot the puck there.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor Zegras made the right play.
Oh, I just saw your tweet about this. Perfect.
Yeah.
Now I get to read the replies while you go on about this.
Yeah. Trevor Zegras made the right play there. And sure, maybe he should shoot it, whatever. I think that's the right play because you look at how Casey DeSmith played it. Casey DeSmith was tight to him, and you watch this right in shootouts. There are plenty of times where a shooter will look dumb because the goalie does a really good job of tracking him and doesn't bite on any fakes, and there's just no runway and no place to shoot. Trevor Zegras was kind of staying on the right side of the net, and Casey DeSmith really stayed tight and really didn't give him a whole lot to shoot at, no holes to open up, was kind of really playing tight on him. And with the defender on his left side, there wasn't really a whole lot of space necessarily with the guy trailing him.
He wasn't fully kind of broken away.
No. And so he had identified all those different items and knew that with Fowler trailing the play like he was, that would have been a tap in. And he made the pass and it was there. And for whatever reason, Cam Fowler's stick was not on the ice. And that's the difference there. That was the right play. And that was making that high danger play to create the more dangerous scoring opportunity as compared to, because what happens if he shoots that puck? There's not really an angle. There's really no place to shoot.
If he shoots it, tight. If he shoots it, it might be a reverse breakout anyway.
Yeah. It probably goes off a pad, kicking it the other way, or if he misses, it goes wide and wraps around. I mean, sure, there's a chance maybe it rebounds to Fowler and he buries it, and maybe that's what Fowler's thinking there, but, I mean, he made the right play, and it's a high-skilled play and a high IQ play, and Fowler just didn't read it right. That's the end of it.
I don't want to call it the right play. I just think it was a fine choice given the options that he had. Because I think shooting it would have been a fine play too. I just still don't really understand why Fowler didn't have his stick down because the Pittsburgh defender wasn't lifting his stick, didn't have him tied up. So I just didn't really understand Fowler's position there. I think what makes it harder to accept is just that Zegras is so good on breakaways, as we've seen in the shootout. But that's not really a shootout situation. He can't come in slow-mo and just do whatever he wants to the goalie. And I think that was a good play by him, and it was just the wrong result. That'll happen.
And as a response, people may be saying, oh, you have to get a shot on goal there. No, you don't.
Well, you have to get the best opportunity possible given the circumstances.
Getting a shot on goal there is just essentially working the shot on goal counter, basically. And you want to work for the most dangerous opportunity that you can get. And that is has a reasonable chance of connecting, right? You're trying to weigh the options, weight different things in your own head. It's a very quick split decision. But that was a good opportunity and was a good play by Zegras to make. And so
I have no problems with it. I think that if this was a situation where the Ducks were in an actual playoff race, I think we would be hearing a lot more about it. But because the Ducks are where they are, no one is really hand-wringing too much. Another thing I want to ask you about. Yeah. Oh, unless you had something just now. Another thing I want to ask you about from this game, which I had just noticed, which maybe is a tell of how closely I've been paying attention to these recent games. But what do you think of the puck tracker?
That was my bone I was going to pick.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, I'm glad I set you up there.
I have a bone to pick with this.
Okay, let's hear it.
Do you want to know what my big issue is? The freaking nameplates.
Okay.
Okay. The puck tail, whatever. I'll get into that. I don't have as big of an issue with that as I do the nameplate because the nameplates block the ice. They block the play where you can't see things behind it. Players can be hiding behind it. And so it's extremely frustrating that It's the same thing as the score bug. The fact they put the score bug on the bottom of the screen instead of the top corner where now part of the ice is blocked.
Well, the worst part of their score bug is that we get like NBA and MLB scores on the right side.
Yeah, but like the puck can legitimately be in that area and now it's blocked and the players can be down there and it's blocked by that score bug. And same thing with these nameplates. It's just like I don't need to know the name, like have a name above each player. I get how it can be useful, right, for a newer fan.
Yeah.
But it's still a situation where even for a newer fan, you want them to see the whole ice. You don't need to have this nameplate above someone that is going to block the ice as a purpose.
I just don't know, like, does this really help, new fans? Like, no other sport does this. You don't see the NFL or baseball or basketball have nameplates over their players.
They don't do it in real time. They'll do it in like highlight packages.
Sure, but that's fine. But I'm talking about in real time, and you don't have a ball tracker. I mean, I guess a puck is harder to track, but I don't understand why the NHL feels this great need to do this.
I don't mind the puck trail or the puck.
Oh no, It's so bad. It's so bad.
That I don't care as much about because
it's so bad.
It's not intrusive.
It is intrusive.
It's not intrusive like the nameplates. I think that one
it's polluting my screen.
I think that one you can make the argument for that for someone that's newer to the game, it's a very quick moving puck. It's sometimes harder to track all the different things. It can be useful, especially on a power play with very quick puck movement and you're trying to find
I think the power play is the easiest time to track the puck because you can see exactly where the guys are trying to pass.
I do think that having all of that on during 3-on-3 overtime is a garbage decision.
Yeah.
Like
I can't believe you're taking a stand for the puck tracker.
Am I taking a stand or just saying it's whatever? Like I think on a power play it's
you're
fine
taking a stand.
Okay, fine. No, but I think the very first game that they did it, they had the nameplates and in the third period they turned the nameplates off. And they only did the puck tail. And, like, that is what you should... Like, if you're going to do it, only do that.
You know what you should do instead of the puck trail? Do, like... Have you ever played an NHL video game?
Yeah.
So there's like
but yes.
There's like a shadow on the puck. And to me, that's perfect because it's less intrusive, but it makes it more obvious where the puck is. Just have like a little shadow around the puck, like a little highlight almost.
I think that you'll get the same exact people saying the same exact thing.
I think that would just be better than just this weird line dotting my screen, and it looks like a 7-year-old is scribbling all over the screen. It's just awful.
That one I don't mind. I genuinely
this might be your worst take.
Is it?
And Lord knows.
Is it?
Well, no, because I think you said something very objectionable the other day.
I did? Uh-oh.
I forget what it was.
Are you going to find receipts?
I'm honestly losing track at this point. I'm not going to bother. You're in luck.
No, the nameplate's the bad one because you're actually blocking the ice and inhibiting someone's ability to
I agree that the nameplates are worse. I agree with that. And I do, I acknowledge that there's value for the puck trail for a newbie fan. But here's what I would ask. How many newbie fans are actually watching Ducks Penguins on Monday?
That's fair. So,
it's not a perfect argument, but I think it's got some value.
So Felix, do you know one way to avoid having to have these nameplates, though, in puck trail?
How?
You can actually go to the games, and you can do that with our friends at 714 Tickets. I think it's agreed that there's really no better way to watch hockey than going to games live and in person. That's where 714 Tickets comes in. 714 Tickets is a locally owned ticket company in Anaheim that never charges you taxes or service fees, unlike StubHub or Ticketmaster. They're located right in front of the Honda Center, but also have a website, 714tickets.com, where you can earn 5% back in rewards on every online purchase. So let's recap. You get to see your favorite team play. You can pay no fees. You can earn rewards back for future purchases. I mean, Felix, it sounds like a no-brainer. And here's the other thing. Like I said, we just spent, way too long talking about this puck trail and this nameplate. If you're at a game, they can't do any of that to you. You don't have the digital ad boards. You don't have it. You don't have to deal with the commentators. You get the ambient sound of hockey when the game is going on, and you can do that with 714 Tickets. So shop your Ducks tickets at 714tickets.com or stop by their office for a more personal feel. Check them out and use the promo code CTP to get 10% off your purchase.
Go check them out.
Yep.
Support local business.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry,
Great local business. One of the very early things that we had any sort of relationship with on this podcast.
Back in the AC days.
Back in the AC days. Back in the Mixlr days.
Oh, God.
Shout out to anyone that listened to us on Mixlr way before Twitch.
Yeah, if you were listening to us on Mixlr, hit us up on Twitter at us after this and let us know.
Yeah, I need to find someone that remembers I don't even remember how that software worked.
Yeah, I just remember using my phone for the streaming, and I don't know how I got away with that.
God bless everyone for dealing with our audio quality back then.
Like comparing,
I used Skull Candy earbuds for my microphone. The very first couple ones.
Remember, you had what was it called? The Blue Yeti.
I had the Blue Yeti for years.
That's actually not terrible. You had one before that though. It was like a ball. The snowball. Yeah. Well, if our tech setup now is leaps and bounds better than what it was.
So much better.
So thank you to everyone who stuck with us. Okay.
Yeah, so that was that game. So do we want to get into the topic that we were going to do?
Well, okay, I actually have a topic that I want to get to. I have two topics I want to get to before we do that. This might run a little long today. Who knows? I'm not particularly pressed for time.
Maybe thankfully. We save the other one for a Patreon episode then.
We'll see.
Okay.
But here's something I want to throw at you. I was again listening to the PDO cast the other day, and
great show. Go check them out.
Great show, and was thinking about this. They were discussing the Edmonton Oilers, Ryan Lambert and Dimitri, and talking about how the big need for the Oilers is the fact that they don't have much offense beyond their star players. And I am looking at one Adam Henrique in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got this year left on his deal, and then the year after. Is he not kind of like the perfect fit for what the Oilers need?
Yeah, he is.
Assuming that Edmonton is not on his no-trade list, because that is a very big assumption, which we don't know about. But
and I would assume that he might even waive the no move to go. I mean, who knows, right? He just had a child. There's a whole lot that goes into that goes outside of the hockey side of things. But Edmonton would allow him to chase a cup.
Exactly. I mean, he's got a great opportunity to chase a cup in Edmonton. So assuming that he would accept the trade there's a couple issues. First off, the Oilers have no cap space. That's number one. And number two, from a Ducks perspective, what could you really want back from the Oilers that would make it make sense for you? Because I think Adam Henrique is potentially the Ducks' best trade chip right now, because he's on pace for 27 goals. He's showing no signs of slowing down. He's still a play driver. He's about to be 33 on February 6th.
Shout out to a great birthday.
Do you guys share a birthday?
Yeah, he's 1 year older than me, exactly.
Well, I'll be damned. But anyway, point is, Adam Henrique is still just as good as he's ever been. And I'm just wondering, why this seems like a perfect match between Edmonton and Anaheim.
Yeah, the real tough part is making the money work.
And that's my question, and that's why I'm posing it to you, because I know that this is something that you enjoy.
That I enjoy doing?
So the name the name that immediately comes to mind is obviously Jesse Puljujarvi.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily... The issue with looking at an Adam Henrique deal, right? It's not necessarily this year. It's the fact that his contract bleeds into next year also. And so I think if you take back a Jesse Puljujarvi, that's not necessarily... it's almost like that's in it. That is one of the return pieces. I think you also have to take back an additional player to help out with next season. Whether that is... I mean, here's a dumb question that I'm trying to remember. But weren't the Oilers looking to move Tyson Barrie?
That I don't know. But because that would be like a bad money. I mean, I don't know if he's considered bad money, but that's...
Exactly.
Because I think...
But that's what I'm looking at here, is that it's a bad money deal. And so you could do Adam Henrique for Jesse Puljujarvi, Tyson Barrie, and a first-round pick?
Yeah, I mean... Do you think Adam Henrique gets you something like that? A first-round pick plus a good... I mean, a good young player?
The tough part's the term. I mean, the 32 Thoughts podcast talked about this. I think the PDO cast also recently talked about this, that The main issue that's happening right now is GMs are afraid of taking on term.
But here's the funny thing, though, about the term thing.
Yeah.
And the PDOcast also talked about this, but that GMs have no issue with term during the summer.
Yeah. Yep.
When it's free agency.
No, 100%.
But for whatever reason, if it's anything else, term is like this poison pill.
Yeah.
And I mean, Adam Henrique, like here's why I don't think the term is an issue with Adam Henrique to Edmonton is that it's one more year. The Oilers are in their contending window.
Yep.
He gives you 2 playoff runs. Like I think that this, like him having an additional playoff run for them is actually better value than just one.
I don't disagree. Curtis in our YouTube chat says, I'm laughing at the thought of ridding ourselves of Klingberg and Shattenkirk and immediately replacing them with Tyson Barrie.
Well, I mean, you could also deal Tyson Barrie.
You could.
You don't necessarily have to
and
hold
you
on
could
to
retain.
him. Exactly. Like
and make it easier. But the question is, I'm not quite sure, and so I don't really want to speak on that too much, just me floating the idea out there, because I don't know where Tyson Barrie's value is at, because he is producing points. So I don't know if he would necessarily be considered a negative value guy. That was just someone that instantly came to mind because I thought I saw him in a trade rumor. I wouldn't take on Cody Ceci because the 3rd year on that contract. And so really, if it's Jesse Puljujarvi, maybe you retain to make that money work, and maybe you try to get a prospect back also, because I think the Oilers are just trying to dump Puljujarvi at this point in time.
Yeah. I guess the bigger question, honestly, for me is from a Ducks perspective. Is just, do the Oilers have something that's enough of interest to you to move Adam Henrique, to make it worth it? And
I think Jesse Puljujarvi is someone of interest to me. I mean,
because if you can get Puljujarvi plus a first rounder, whatever else you have to do, that seems to be worth it to me.
Yeah, I mean, here's the question. Actually, speaking of the Oilers, Evander Kane is supposed to be ready to go soon, and so they are currently have no cap space, and they are using LTIR to be cap compliant essentially right now with Evander Kane. They may need to make a trade soon. And so that's kind of where this is going, right? That even if they trade for Henrique, they need to move stuff out even before that. So I'm really not sure if the Oilers are a good fit from that perspective of it, especially with Evander Kane coming back. That might make Henrique a little bit expendable from their side of things.
Well, I still think that they should get Adam Henrique even with Evander Kane in tow. But
yeah. So, it's a tough deal to make work, mainly from the cap perspective. And
I think the bigger issue for me, again, is just that I don't know if I'm so sold on anything that the Oilers have to have them be the one that get Adam Henrique, especially if you do have to take back money that you might not want to have.
I think a team that honestly would be the most likely to get, Curtis is bringing up Broberg. Well, yeah, I don't know if they move Broberg. I think a team I would maybe target a little bit if they are all in, not all in on this year, but I think they may actually like the fact that Henrique has term, would be potentially the Seattle Kraken.
I was just about to say them.
And I think they're an analytics-friendly organization. Henrique has put up really good expected goal numbers.
Henrique for Shane Wright?
Yeah, exactly. But I think that could be an interesting team. I'm not sure what they would be willing to give up necessarily, but I think that you might be able to find a match there. I think I said this last episode, though, and I've said this a couple times now. I think with Adam Henrique, it's really going to come down to what is the return. And if the return is not up to snuff, then you keep him. Because I think you really have to hit a home run with that deal because of what it can potentially do to Zegras, to Terry, to those types of guys, and the fact that he is available for next year. I see some people in our chats bringing up the Rangers. I'm not quite sure. Let me see. Where are the Rangers from a cap perspective? I could have sworn they were up against it.
Most teams are, so it's not a bad bet.
True. They currently are listed at $866K.
Yeah.
So it would be tough. They have 2 first rounders that they can trade, but they would need to move out money this year and next, and they have a decent amount. And the issue is they have money tied up for next year, and they're going to have to sign Philip Hedl this summer. There's just money that it doesn't make sense. And so all that being said, I think the way that the cap is set up this year, the fact that there are so many teams tight to the cap.
It feels likelier like Henrique is not going to be dealt this season than next season.
Yep.
But it was just an interesting thought because I do think just from a hockey perspective, there's a lot of teams contending teams that could benefit from Adam Henrique, if not
Remember
all
when
of
he
them.
was put on waivers?
Yeah, remember who made that decision and how that person's decisions have aged?
Yeah.
Anyway, and then another thing that I wanted to bring up, this kind of took me by surprise. So Frank Saravalli, respected insider, what have you, Daily Faceoff, had a trade bait article.
He did?
Something to that effect.
He did.
And he has a tier that's potentially available or potentially on the move. And Cam Fowler's name was in there. And I was shocked to see that because to me, Cam Fowler is the closest thing to untradeable as you can find in the NHL because his no trade clause is so restrictive. He gets to pick a list of 4 teams that he wants to go to.
So, to be fair, this was specifically about sizing up the market that was similar to Shane Gostisbehere. That is where this occurred. It was in a the article is, could Shane Gostisbehere be a cost-efficient source of blue line firepower at the deadline? And as you scroll down to that, there's a sizing up the market portion, and it says other defensemen available list Chikrin, Klingberg, Gavrikov, Carlson, McCabe, Ryan Merkley. And then he has another section saying potentially available defensemen. Luke Shen, Cam Fowler, Nico Mikkola, Jacob Megna, Sean Walker, Carson Soucy.
Yeah,
so,
but still, I mean, potentially available Cam Fowler?
But these are guys that I don't know if, I feel like the Sharks are in love with Jacob Megna. So these feel like situations where it's Frank kind of taking a guess based upon where teams are at.
Well, that's your interpretation.
That is.
Let's
that
be
is
clear.
My interpretation.
There's also an interpretation, which is that, who knows, there's something out there about Fowler maybe not being the happiest. Who knows?
But I think if that's the case, he wouldn't have been potentially available. I think we would have gotten wind of that, and it would have gone. If he has legitimately said that, I think he wouldn't be potentially available. He would just be straight up available. And I think that there's a key distinction there.
Or not. Maybe it just depends how things play out. Who's in the market for him? We don't know. But entertain this for a second, though. If Cam Fowler is potentially available, if he's actually available, first off, is that a good thing for this team? And if he is, and if you move him, what are you looking to get back? What is his value?
I have no idea. That's a deal that I have no clue on, because when you look at Cam Fowler, right, he's not only signed for this year and next year.
3 years.
The 3 more years after this one. He signed through the 25-26 season. And we talked about it, right, how so many teams don't want to trade for term. That's talking about Henrique with 1 more year. I don't think that there's a team out there that wants to take on a guy that signed for 3 more years after this one, let alone someone that's 31 right now and someone that also has a 4-team yes list. I think all of those factors considered, the return is just not going to be worth it where it makes sense to go ahead and move him. And I think that that's where I come in on this, is that it just really, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever for him to be moved because of that. And I think from the perspective of, you look at the Ducks blue line, right? As compared to the forward group, I think you make the argument that you can move Henrique because there's guys there's depth there. They need to add more depth, but you did sign Ryan Strome this offseason, right? Who's kind of a similar mold in some ways to an Adam Henrique. You brought in those guys. On the blue line, it's kind of barren going into next season. It's Fowler and Drysdale. That's it. Unless you want to consider Benoit also, but I mean, shocker anyone out there that has been watching or that hasn't been watching these games, Benoit has been really bad. And I don't know if he's on this team next year. And so, I mean, is that a bold take?
I mean, kind of, but continue.
He's been bad.
Continue.
But so you have Fowler's the only left-hand shot D that is locked into this team next year.
Yeah.
So I think all that being said,
you know who I think could do it?
Who?
And who he would accept a trade to?
Detroit
Red Wings.
The thing is, you're going to get pennies on the dollar in this deal, and it's going to be a negative value deal. It's going to be one of those where you're not going to get the value back. That
Here's what I'm curious about, though.
Yeah.
what if Cam Fowler just actually, like, this is all purely hypothetical. What if he actually just wants out? Let's just say that he doesn't think that this thing will turn around quick enough. He sees Detroit. He sees potentially an opportunity there. There's a relationship between Yzerman and Verbeek.
Depends on the return.
They're not cash strapped like other teams. They're not, their cap space is not quite as difficult of a situation, although they have some guys to re-sign this summer. I don't know.
Depends on the return, because I think if you are getting nothing back, and granted, there is some value to that, because
I don't think he's a negative value asset, though. Like, I understand.
I don't. I think if anything, he's a nothing value asset in the sense of because of his cap hit and the term associated with that.
I think the term is the bigger issue.
And so I think if you want to look at it from the Ducks' perspective, is the value you'll get back is getting out of that contract. The question is, over that span, is that contract going to make it be cost prohibitive for this team long term?
That's the value for the Ducks.
Yes.
Because the thing is, Cam Fowler's good right now, although he's had a difficult season. But there's no way of knowing if that will continue for 3 more years, and then potentially that contract becomes an anchor for the Ducks.
Are we throwing crap on Cam Fowler? John H in our YouTube chat saying that. I like Cam Fowler. I think Cam Fowler this year's been a rough season, but last year he was probably the Ducks' best defenseman. It's just more so talking about his value in the contract that carries that value for him.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that's listened to us over the last 3 years would know that we are big Cam Fowler proponents. He's been the Ducks' best defenseman during that period of time. This is just purely talking about discussing a trade for a player isn't crapping on them. It's this is just how it works.
Okay. Changing the topic slightly, seeing as we'll probably just get into questions after this. But did you see the contract that was signed today and what that could potentially have implications for the Ducks?
Which contract? No.
Matthew Boldy.
Uh-huh.
Matthew Boldy was signed to a 7-year extension at $7 million per year. This is now the second player kind of Trevor Zegras' ilk that signed his second deal coming off his ELC and signed it for a massive term. You have Jack Hughes signing an 8x8 deal, and now you have Matt Boldy signing a 7x7 deal. And if you look at it on a per game per production perspective, Boldy and Zegras are pretty similar. And especially Zegras, I think, is a little bit lower on points per game if you consider their entire time in the NHL. But if you do the same time period as Boldy's, their Zegras grades out slightly better from a production standpoint. And I mean, the thought process behind these deals, and for those people wondering, like, why are these guys coming off their ELCs getting these contracts? Because I don't know if you remember this at all. People questioned Jack Hughes getting that contract. People were like, he hasn't earned this deal yet. He hasn't put up the points to warrant this type of contract, which is a very old way of thinking. And instead, the Devils, as they're getting rewarded for now with a guy that's under contract for at a very valuable or very beneficial cap hit to them, they understood that they are going to be paying for the guy's prime. And so that is when they should be paying him the most. And they are still getting a deal by paying him $8 million a year. And the Wild might have that also with Matthew Boldy. And so I think this really sets the stage for Trevor Zegras and what his contract negotiation is going to be.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Evolving Hockey has his contract projection at 7 times 6.8. So it's right in that ballpark.
Yeah, and so I would probably put him, I mean, maybe you get a bump for center, but I would say he's probably going to end up within the 7. And this is kind of where I was going with it. It sets the ballpark for his negotiation. And he has no leverage right now because does not have arbitration coming off his ELC. And so the two sides of it are he could want term and the Ducks could want term, and they could go 7 or 8 years for $7 to $8 million. And that would buy 2 to 3 years of his UFA status, because in 5 years, he's going to become an unrestricted free agent. The other option is that he takes a lower cap hit, maybe $4 or $5 million on a 3-year deal, and then he comes out of this with 2 years left before unrestricted free agency. And the Ducks could then sign, and then he could get a larger cap hit as a result of that. After that, it's taking a risk on yourself, but I could see Trevor Zegras doing that. And so,
yeah, if I were Trevor Zegras and I were telling him like what I think he should do, which might not be a good thing for him, but I think these long-term deals are great in terms of security, but especially for a guy like Zegras who hasn't really had a great situation to work in, just production-wise. I think going for a deal that just takes you to free agency is actually perfect, because then I think he'll be in a much better position then than he is now. I think he's in a good position now, but I think he can be in a great position. What is it, in 5 years as opposed to now?
Well, I don't think I think
because he doesn't have the production to.
There's
command.
no way he's going to get a 5-year deal. I think
Cole Caulfield's going to get more than all these guys, despite being a 15th overall pick.
I think that wow.
I mean, Cole Caulfield might get 50 goals this year.
Fair.
I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't paid too much attention to that, but I do. So I don't think Zegras is going to get a 5-year deal. There's no way they sign him to that, because there's no way they're going to sign him to a contract that walks him to unrestricted.
Well, yeah, the Ducks are not going to want that.
No,
there's no.
And I don't think they're going to sign him to a 4-year deal, and I don't think they're going to sign him to a 6-year deal, because a 4-year deal takes him 1 year within it. A 6-year deal only buys 1 year of his unrestricted free agency. So I think it's going to come down to whether he wants a 3-year deal or a 7 or 8-year deal. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because we're starting to see more guys from this draft class take the term and get paid for it. And it's also going to be fascinating because this is Verbeek's first major contract negotiation.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're in the Ducks, though, you have to be careful not to play too much of hardball. Yeah. Because we've seen these RFA situations go sour, and it really kind of polluting the water for future negotiations.
Well, we've also seen Trevor Zegras in some ways speak out at the fact that the Ducks kind of played some shenanigans with him in his first year. And
Bob Murray played shenanigans.
No,
although you could argue
what I'm talking about.
You could argue that ownership is involved there, but yeah.
But the shenanigans of sending him down to not count as a year towards unrestricted free agency. Zegras has come out and flat out said, yeah, isn't it funny that me and Jamie played the same exact amount of games our first year?
Yeah.
Like, you don't think he notices that?
That doesn't build goodwill.
No. So, yeah, all that being said, I wanted to just bring that up because I think it's another deal that's just when you look at these contracts, you're looking and trying to project out where these guys are going to end up. Finding comparables is the best thing. Same thing with trades. Those are really the things that deals are built off of, especially when you're dealing with restricted free agencies where the players don't have a whole lot of leverage. So finding comparable is the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I think if I were to predict it, do you think Zegras gets the 8-year deal?
Yes.
I think so too. And I
think the Ducks are going to want to do that.
I think they're going to want to do that. And he's not going to get the 5 years because the Ducks aren't going to want that. So at that point, it just really becomes a question of, who's going to win out there, and the Ducks do have the leverage. So
it's a question of I don't know if it's necessarily because it takes two to tango here, and so the question's going to be: what does he want? Does Zegras want term, or does he want a bridge?
Well, are we really sure that Zegras is like this kind of player? Like, I'm thinking of like a Matthews, or like this kind of player that is so potent that he should really be playing this kind of hardball because he's going to put up crazy points.
No.
Like, as great as I think Trevor Zegras is, like, he's settling into the 60-point range in the first 2 years of his career. I of course think he's going to get beyond that eventually, but he's not going to be like, he's probably not going to be like a top 15 player in the NHL, right?
Matthews played a different game though. Matthews actually took a 5-year deal on the dot, which took him to unrestricted free agency.
Yeah.
So and I mean that's not what I think Zegras would do. I don't think it's playing hardball saying I want a bridge instead of a long-term deal.
Well, it's not that it's playing hardball. It's just in the position that these RFAs are in, doing anything but what the team wants and kind of trying to have it your way. There is kind of this association with that as you're not doing what the team wants. You're trying to get it your way. You're trying to have the best situation for you. And it just kind of sets this dynamic. Whereas when the team plays hardball, it doesn't seem like they bear those same consequences of souring the relationship quite as much.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that. I
just don't think players want to be seen as rocking the boat either.
I don't think that's necessarily the case when you're talking about a negotiation between a bridge and a long term.
Sure.
I don't think players just straight up take what the team gets. I think if a player prefers to have a bridge over a long term deal, they negotiate that, and the give and take between this, right? Because there is a give and take, is when a player takes a bridge because that's more player friendly, they have a lower AAV. Yeah. And that's where I was going to say, if he gets 7 to 8 years or if he takes that, then it's going to be in the $7 to $8 million range. Like, that's just what the AAV is going to be, and I'm pretty confident in that.
Tops.
If he goes 3 years, right, it's going to probably be in the $3 or $4 million range from an AAV perspective. Maybe closer to 4, not the 3. But that's the give and take, is you're giving up guaranteed money, because over those 3 years, he would have made what, 3 times, let's just say 3 times 8 is going to be 24 mil, as compared to, let's say he gets 5, 15 mil. He's living $9 million on the table over that 3-year span. That's just over those 3 years, not adding in the later. So it's whether you take the guaranteed money on the table or whether you want to negotiate and expect that once the bridge is up, you're going to make more. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, we can also look at Nick Suzuki potentially. It's comparable.
All right, let's get to questions. So we're going to start with our Discord, unless you've got anything else, but I think we saved that other topic for our Patreon show now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got this one from LewisX209 in our Discord. We're going to Discord first. We've seen the ups and downs of rebuilding the rebuild this season. We've seen Dallas Eakins make questionable decisions from time to time. We've had folks pit Trevor Zegras and Mason McTavish against each other. With all of that being said, what is the one pizza topping you have to have on your pizza?
Oh, wow. I mean, does cheese count as an answer?
No, cheese. We're not getting into this
tomato
plain
sauce
pizza thing. We're
cheese?
not getting into this plain pizza thing. Topping is an addition to cheese.
In addition to cheese and tomato sauce.
Yes.
Okay. Great question.
If I can only have one topping.
Oh, I thought it was what one topping is a must.
What is the one pizza topping you have to have on your pizza?
That doesn't mean it's the only. It just means the one you have to have. I don't know. What's your answer? I was gonna say pepperoni, but that's what
I was gonna say, because the way I took it was you can only have this one. You can't add anything else.
No,
so
I don't think that's what that's asking though.
Well, then it's pineapple.
Wow.
Pineapple on pizza is good.
Potentially your worst take.
Do you not like pineapple on pizza?
It's just wrong.
Have you had it?
Yes, and it's wrong.
It's so good. Classic Nomad chimed in Twitch right at the perfect time when I said it.
It's wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to add yours?
I would go with pepperoni as a bland answer.
Yeah, pineapple plus or here's the bold take. If I'm changing it, jalapenos.
Yeah, although every time I have jalapeno on pizza, the next day is a rough one from a digestive standpoint.
Well, yeah, but you're having pizza anyway.
Is that worth it? No, usually not.
That's gonna happen anyways with pizza.
Jalapeno makes it worse.
Shake and Wings asks, is Strome playing better? And how did we like him on the wing?
I think that he's better suited for the wing, especially with Trevor Zegras. I think that he's got those kind of smaller, shorter area skills where he can make plays, but he's just not the one that's going to have to bring the puck up the ice and be kind of that focal point of the offense. I think it's a perfect match, potentially, with Zegras at center and him on the wing.
And then, what's one soda to eliminate from existence?
Oh, wow. I'm going to say Coca-Cola.
What?
I'm going to say Coca-Cola. The world would be a better place if that didn't exist.
I mean, this is a very niche answer, but I think it's a very on-brand answer with the Ducks. And I would just eliminate it from existence, which they have now, RC Cola.
What is RC Cola?
It was the cola that they sold at Ducks games for like the last 5 years.
Is it like an off-brand Coke?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I think it stands for Royal Crown.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
It's not good. It's just not. And so the fact, I mean, your Coke take is going to get you hate. I'm not really piping up too much about it because I know you're going to get hate from a lot of people for that. That is one of your worst takes. Joshua Fontaine just said, I just clutched my pearls at the Coke blasphemy. It's a bad take.
Look, here's the thing. This isn't a commentary on like the taste or whatever. It's just thinking about it from a public health standpoint.
What?
That's all.
People will still drink soda.
Hey, do what you can. Do what you can. I'm going after the big dogs, which you are afraid to do. as evidenced by your RC Cola
you're
take.
trying to take down Big Cola on Crash the
Yeah,
Pond.
I'm going for the very top.
Going for the tippity top.
Yeah.
Big Cola, we're coming for you.
Yeah. Warren Buffett, if you're listening to this, I'm coming for you.
Darko Theory said, it's so hard watching Comtois with great opportunities, but just not being able to get one in. His last goal was December 6th, 17 games, including tonight, tied with his longest streak. Is he just snake-bitten, or is this an issue at this point? What's the level of concern on his production?
No concern. He's been playing in weird roles. I think that he needs to be in a good opportunity, and he'll get more chances. If he has a sustained stretch with, let's say, Zegras and Strome, and he still can't bury a few, then maybe I'll have some concerns. But Max Comtois is just not this true top six winger. He's a complementary piece, and in the right situation, he can be productive. But we just need to dial back the expectations.
Yeah, I think if he ends up being a 15 goal scorer on the regular, maybe bumping up to 20 at best, I think that's a good outcome for him. And I think, but he has to be playing with better players to be able to hit that kind of ceiling. Yeah. And so I don't necessarily think it's time to raise alarm bells on him. I'd like to see him given a long stretch of games with these line mates and see what eventually ends up happening.
He is what he is. He's 24.
I don't think I would be. I'm not opposed to trading him. Having said that,
yeah. Well, you think he's gone.
I think he needs to have a very strong end to the season to get a qualifying offer.
Fair.
The Puff said, is it worth overloading a line with Terry McTavish and Zegras? And also, does the return of Isaac Lundestrom have any effect on this team?
I will be curious what happens once one Isaac Lundestrom returns, because it's funny, as much as I've been a critic of Isaac Lundestrom and his game and all that in recent years, I would much rather see him developing and getting an opportunity in the bottom six than, a Jason Megna, for example. And Sam Carrick's been a good soldier, but even him, I'd rather see a young player working through the kinks of kind of this season than a veteran who's probably not going to be here in a few years. So once he's back, I would assume that Jason Megna will be. I would assume that there's no way they're going to prioritize Megna over Lundestrom.
No. And so as for the Terry McTavish Zegras, I think it's definitely worth taking a look at it. I think I would say, though, that let's give this a little bit more of a look. Zegras has ended it back at center. I think there were two ways that you could fix it, either overloading that line or doing what they did tonight. And so I think you give it a run out with this lineup and see how it goes. As for Lundestrom, I think it's quite simple. Either he slots in and goes to the third line with Silverberg and Vetrano, and then Carrick drops down to play with Jones and Leeson, or Lundestrom just ends up with Jones and Leeson.
Yeah.
I don't think it's. I think that's kind of where he will be. I don't know if there will be any necessary effect, but I'll be curious to see how it ends up. And then Heyo Deflo said, will Pat Verbeek make a trade before February 15th, 2023?
Yep, I think that we're going to see some movement. I think that there's enough movable contract on this team for Pat Verbeek to be pretty busy.
Will he do it before February 15th, though? The deadline's March 3rd.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. What's the significance of February 15th?
I have no idea. I think that's what Heyo Deflo said.
In the next month?
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like teams are not going to do the whole trade way ahead of time because you want to save as much money as you can. So I would say no. I would say zero trades.
I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to go with one trade.
Okay. Who is it?
Don't know.
Kulikov?
Don't know.
The Ducks could trade their entire, half their blue line in the next couple of months here if they really wanted to.
Derek Grant comes back, plays one game, gets traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Derek Grant's been all right this season.
Comes back, plays one game, gets traded.
No one wants to hear that.
Sorry, actually, gets traded to the Vancouver Canucks. For whatever, because the Canucks are trading away picks for Derek Grant.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
That would be just the ultimate Jim Rutherford move.
Oh, man.
All right, and we got one Twitter question that I wanted to bring up. This came from Even Wilder Wing. Said, question for the pod, what number will Bedard wear in Anaheim? And will he put Zegras to third line winger? After all, Zegras did after all Zegras did
third
to keep
line
the Ducks,
winger.
after all the Zegras did to keep the Ducks in this game, will the broadcast ever focus on anything other than the pass to Fowler? Number for Bedard.
Were they critical of Zegras?
Yeah, they were like, "Why would you pass that? You need to shoot it."
Oh, that's a bit too harsh.
Yeah.
So Bedard, I mean, probably 98.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe 6. Well, he can wear 16. I mean, it is interesting because Bedard is a center, Zegras is a center, McTavish is a center.
It seems kind of center. Who cares?
It seems kind of odd to have all three of those guys on their own lines. But I mean, if it ends up being the case where Zegras moves to the wing, like that's not
Connor Bedard's at center, not a big deal.
Yeah, like that's not some discredit, on Zegras. Like Connor Bedard is a generational talent, and so having him shift to the wing because you have Connor Bedard that says nothing about Zegras and everything about Bedard.
Or how about this? You have 3 great centers, and you have them on the ice for the entirety of the game.
Yeah,
and
that's probably the best play, to be honest.
There's been a lot of talk about this, right? About what do you do if you get Connor Bedard and
just don't draft a center.
People are like up in arms over the fact of what do you do with Isaac Lundestrom, I think. And it's like, who cares?
Okay, that has to be like not a concern.
Yeah.
Let that one play out.
Yeah, but Trevor Zegras was fantastic tonight. Fantastic being back at center. That's where he should be long term. And so run Zegras, McTavish, Bedard.
I think that's perfect just because that gives you so much flexibility.
And they all do something different. And here's the thing. If you are chasing a game, throw one of them on the wing because Bedard's played
them
wing.
All together.
Zegras has played all 3 of those guys can shift to a wing position if you're chasing a game and really need instant offense.
And they could easily all play on the same line because they all have complementary skills.
Yeah.
Bedard is a sniper, Zegras playmaker, McTavish kind of a two-way threat, so they could make that work too.
Yep. All right, so time for our questions. So for those of you listening to this on your favorite podcast services, we do a live stream of the show each and every Monday, typically at 7 p.m. You can find us at twitch.tv/crashspawn, where if you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month. And you can use that to help us out more than you can imagine. You get special emotes in the chat, special badges next to your name. And also, you can watch us live at youtube.com/crashbond. Please go subscribe to our channel there, like our videos, everything along those lines. Smash that like button. And it will help us get more visibility and put us out there more so more Ducks fans can find us and watch us and follow us and everything good with that.
Yep.
All right. So we'll start with this one. This came from Curtis saying, semi-chaotic question, but if at the deadline we are one of the few teams at the bottom, should we swap first-rounders with whoever else is in the mix? Play your way above them and increase the lottery odds.
Yeah, I don't think that would fly. But
I don't think that will fly, but that is a very chaotic take, and I like where your head's at.
It's good. It's good.
Throw some weird things out there.
Yeah.
Rooch20 said, question, are Felix's on-ice hot takes just as bad as his food ones? Because that corn dog one from last week is just abhorrent.
I can't believe people are really going to bat for corn dogs. Like
corn dogs are good.
I hate that I'm going to say this because I hate to play into like the trend or whatever, the fad. But
corn dogs a fad? I just said that.
Corn dogs are the most mid. My understanding of the word mid, they're the most mid food
Mama mid.
I can think of. There's just nothing really great about them.
Honestly, I think a hot dog is way more mid than a corn dog. A hot dog's just bland.
Hot dog you can just do so much more with. It's just so much more flexibility.
Yeah, but just a basic hot dog's just like mid.
No. I mean, you're wrong. It's okay.
Wow.
You're allowed to be wrong.
I am not wrong on this front. Let's see. It seems actually pretty quiet in terms of questions. So anything you want to get off your chest before we get out of here?
My monitor is just turned off. Oh, well, it's turning back on. So I'm just kind of speaking into the void here.
You are just all over the place tonight. You're going to really help or screw me over with editing, I think. So
thanks
so much. I mean, kind of sort of with jumping out and jumping back in, but whatever.
Oh, well, that lasted like 3 seconds.
It's fine.
Anything else I want to get off my chest? Yes. My condolences to the LA Chargers fan base. Because, oh boy, to blow a 27-0 lead to the, plucky, but still, the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's just embarrassing with the talent they have. Truly despicable. We'll see if Brandon Staley gets fired or not. Maybe he won't. Maybe they'll just change the offensive coordinator, but dismal. Dismal is the only word.
Thanks for bringing that up.
It was a great weekend of football. There's been a lot of games. I mean, the Tom Brady era is ending before our eyes as the Cowboys beat down the Buccaneers as I'm watching here.
It was a miserable weekend for me with Tottenham losing to Arsenal, that Chargers loss.
Yeah.
It's not a fun weekend for sports for me. It was a bad weekend. Pour one out for me, guys.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, not a good one. Let's see. Just because we like to make this thing go irrationally long. Jared in our Discord of our food thinks that is barbecue sauce overrated?
I think, my screen is back on. Thank God. Okay. Barbecue sauce, is it overrated? I think it's properly rated.
I think it's properly rated.
I don't have a good grasp of what it's rated as, to be honest with you, but I would say it's properly rated. Gut feel is properly rated.
God, now Rooch and Ginkori Gooch is a barber. I forget always how to say that. Are now putting, come on, you Gunners. You guys are after my soul tonight. It hurts. It wasn't fun. It was not a fun game.
Tottenham lost?
Yeah, they lost to Arsenal.
Did Tottenham lose?
Thanks, yes.
Did they lose? Okay, just checking. Just don't want to misspeak. Yeah, that sucks.
Any other bad takes that you want to get off your chest, though?
I mean, I don't have any bad takes.
Oh, I got
all my takes are great.
I got a good take. Everyone, go watch Last of Us. It was amazing. First episode came out yesterday. For anyone that played the game, it is true to the game in the best way possible. There were a couple scenes. The Last of Us game.
Oh, that's a game. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were speaking as like an old hockey man.
No.
Anyone who played the game.
There's literally a video game, The Last of Us, that came out in 2013.
Okay.
And the head writer of that game is one of the head writers of the show on HBO. Episode 1 debuted, and it was amazing. I think it does an amazing thing that either for both people that have not watched or have not played the game, you don't need any prior knowledge, and it's great to see. And for anyone that has played the game, they add on it with additional story and build the world a little bit in ways that the game did not, and it was amazing.
Okay. I don't know. I don't relate, but
CJ, I'm gonna give him a shout out. Just chimed in a text message to me saying, "Holy F, Last of Us, I'm so in. They nailed it. Perfect timing."
That means nothing to me. I actually saw a really good take in our food channel in our Discord, which people can join. We'll tell you how you can join that shortly. But Olaf said, wings don't require dipping sauce. They're already sauced. And I agree.
This is like saying that burgers shouldn't have sauce, or that steak does, like a sauce on a steak's a bad idea.
It is a bad idea. First off, wow,
I'm not saying A1. I'm not saying A1 steak sauce. I'm talking about
that's a mask off.
I'm
like sure,
about,
chimichurri. If you want to say chimichurri,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like chimichurri, or you go to a steakhouse and they put some sort of like
the reduction or whatever.
Yeah. That's what I'm not talking about steak sauce. Get out of here with that.
Okay, I mean I don't know. I have you pegged as a ketchup on steak kind of guy, but I'm glad to be wrong.
Yes, you are so wrong. Wait,
but to the question though, or it's not really a question, but I do agree that wings don't need dipping sauce, just because you already put sauce on them as you're cooking them, so there's no need.
Yeah, but sometimes the mixing of the sauces is great, like a buffalo sauce mixed with blue cheese. Come on now, that's great.
So bad.
Why is that? What?
Just so bad.
What is wrong with you?
It's not that controversial to say that wings don't need sauce.
There are certain wings that don't need sauce, and a buffalo wing doesn't need sauce, but it also does get significantly better with sauce. That's like saying a taco doesn't need salsa. Sure, a taco's fine without salsa. It gets better with salsa.
I don't think those two things are the same. Another thing that this is one of my takes actually. I'm just pulling up takes.
Chips are better with salsa, but they're still good on their own. Boom.
Another take. This is my take. We as a collective front have failed to give Tabasco its flowers.
Tabasco's just fine.
Tabasco's great.
No, Cholula's better. Oh, wait. Do I? Oh no.
No.
Oh no. Do I do
No.
it? Do I say something?
Sure, say something.
Seeing as we're an hour 20 in and randomly talking about this, do you want to know what I purchased today?
Oh, I did not think that's where we were going, but go for it.
I purchased 100 packs of Del Taco Del Inferno hot sauce.
A what? Repeat that.
Now I'm trying to making sure I bought the right one. I was having something today, and I put Cholula on it, and I was like, this could really use Del Taco hot sauce. And so I went on Del Taco's website, and you can buy 100 packs, like 100 packets.
You bought 100 packs of Del Taco sauce?
Yes.
What is wrong with you? You asked me what's wrong with me? I'm throwing that right back at you. What is wrong with you to buy I'm not even gonna ask how much that costs.
It was $8.
$8? That should tell you 100 packs.
Yeah.
100 packs was $8.
Yeah.
That says everything.
Shipping was as expensive as the $8.
That's so bad. That's so bad. I'm gonna ignore it. There was also a lot of hate in our food channel the other day towards Five Guys.
Yeah, it's
particularly
not good.
this is from Steve. Five Guys is not good, and the fries are flavorless. Connor chimed in and said it's very mid.
Are we just outing people now from our Discord?
I'm name dropping. Burgers are greasy as hell too. I don't know. This is a lot of hate towards. Like, I think Five Guys is perfectly fine. I think
it's fine.
The biggest critique I see of Five Guys,
it's expensive.
Outside of the price, is like, oh, it's like In-N-Out is better. And it's like, well, sure, In-N-Out is better, but Five Guys is fine. It's like, if you remove price for a second, which I know might be hard, but if you remove price, I think it's a perfectly fine burger and fry.
It's like a backyard burger.
Yeah, and I think the fries are fine.
Nah.
There's no issue with the fries.
Nah. Rooch20 said, so we'll end with this. Did Jake and Felix just swap souls because Jake just had a terrible food take? I don't have terrible food takes. I have good food takes. And anyone that people might think is bad, I claim it's just my opinion and it's not a take.
If anyone thinks that we have bad takes, let me introduce you to this take from one Lou.
Oh God.
From one Lewis X209 in our food channel asked, "Are we sure about rice?"
Lap Lou. Go watch Late Arrivals tomorrow just to make fun of Lou and his rice take.
I can't believe anyone would ever dump on rice.
I mean, he also says no sauce on burgers is his take. Wait, I didn't say I don't do sauce on burgers, Roots. That's Lou's take.
Well, hold on. I just want to make the record clear that I think rice is great. It's my favorite. I think it might actually be my favorite carb.
Rice is great. Rice is great. It's so versatile. It can do a whole lot of different things.
Rice is great. But yeah, that's just, to even question that is just terrible.
He also hates coffee, as Heyo D-Flow brings up. Are we now just outing Lou?
I mean, Lou has done that himself. He's outed himself.
He's not even here to defend himself.
No need.
He'll listen to this maybe tomorrow. We'll see.
He deserves this tongue lashing.
On his drive back.
Yeah.
Hi, Lou.
On his hungover drive back.
Okay. I think it's time to end this.
Yeah, I'm looking for more takes, but I can't. Oh, Lou also asked, are we sure spinach and artichoke dip is good? Spinach artichoke dip is great.
It's good. It's very good.
Connor asked, or he said, chips and guac are a top 3 appetizer. I don't know what the other 2 would be, but it's great. Chips and guac are great.
Nope, but whatever. Moving on. I think it's time to end this, Felix.
This is one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite comments because I don't really understand it. But Hopako in our Discord said, "Just realized Felix's food takes are basically Dan Orlovsky on NFL Live," which, as someone who doesn't watch NFL Live or TV, like sports shows, I don't know what that means.
He posted a video of this guy and his food takes in Discord.
Oh, does he have food takes?
He does. They're really bad. They're on par with yours. So let's end it, and you can watch that and then realize how much of a slam that is on you.
I started watching, but we should probably end this. Okay. Well, thanks for that just broke me a little bit. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you've made it this far, I honestly congratulate you because This last 10 minutes has been very off the rails. If you want to help support the show and help us keep this thing going, there's a few easy ways for you to do that. I lost it again. Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/crashthepond. For $1 a month, you get to join the fun in our Discord. It's honestly just that alone is worth it for $1 a month. For $5, you get access to 2 bonus podcasts a month. And we were planning on doing mid-season player grades today, but since we had so much other things to talk about, we were going to save that for a Patreon show. So that's basically where we go more in-depth on the team itself, more in-depth league-wide. It's honestly a lot of fun. It's a little more unfiltered, although that might not be a huge selling point after today's show. But that's all at patreon.com/crashthepond. If you don't want to spend any money, that's totally understandable. Check out our podcast on Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating and a review there. You can also leave a rating and a review on Spotify. You can leave a rating there, not a review. Find us on YouTube, youtube.com/crashthepond. Subscribe there and turn on your notifications. And if you actually check us out on YouTube, the video format of the show, you can see Salem, Jake's black cat, as she is now making currently an appearance on screen. So you're going to have to tune in on the video to see that. And now she just ran away. She just jumped out of Jake's arms, which I don't blame her. So you can also check out the Sporting Tribune. We've got some Ducks coverage there. We had some good practice reports from our own Derek Lee last week. And we've got some articles cooking there. So check that all out. But really the easiest way to keep track of all of this, check us out on Twitter. Jake is on Twitter at ReindeerGames91. And I am on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. That's going to do it for our show tonight. Hope everybody has a great week, and we will talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Bye.